There's been a surge in support for the Greens in the latest One News Colmar Brunton poll, which shows Labour needing their support to govern. Tonight's poll shows Labour with 46%, National 31%, the Greens up 2% to 8%, ACT holds on 8%. New Zealand First has had a rise and is on 3%. Now that would give Labour 59 seats, National 40, ACT 10 and the Greens 11. The poll ran from Saturday through until late last night with just 2 days left to vote. Jacinda Ardern is still out front as the preferred Prime Minister on 55%. Judith Collins is on 20%. So let's drill down a bit more on these poll numbers. Former National MP Jonathan Coleman joins us, and Jonathan is also joined by Green Party Policy Director, now consultant David Cormack, who is with us too. Good evening to you both.
Hi Lisa, hi David, how are you?
Kia ora all.
Dave, let's start with you. Can you breathe a sigh of relief with the Green Party up to 8% according to this poll?
Oh, this is just the best poll I have seen in a long time. We get out of the terrifying scenario of Labour governing alone. The Greens look well comfortable and confirm my policy belief that we need more Green school funding. It's a complete rejection of the shambles that has become the National Party, and we're going to get a whole lot of insane ACT MPs in as well. This is just fantastic news.
Jonathan, does it mean that people are keen on a wealth tax? Greens got a 2% bump.
Well, I doubt it. I don't think that the majority of the electorate would tolerate that, and I think Labour's scared by the idea of a wealth tax as well. So I think the Green showing is probably driven more by the fact that there's people on the left who are concerned that there'd be no Green Party in Parliament. But look, if the Greens are going to be happy with that, but don't forget there's a margin of error. There's also been many polls overseas in elections in places like the UK and Australia where they've totally failed to predict what was going to happen on polling day. But of course, if you're a Green Party supporter, you're going to be happy with that result. I think Labour will be less pleased. I think people might be slightly surprised that they've gone to 46, but both major parties dipping. Of course, the fact that Winston's come up a bit, that's going to be interesting. So there could be a bit of life left in this election yet. And New Zealand First voters are the sort of people who might not necessarily tell pollsters how they're going to vote. So I wouldn't say this is exactly how it's going to play out on election night. There could be a bit to run yet in this whole story.
The only big flaw there, Jonathan, is that this is effectively an exit poll, isn't it? Because we've had such a large chunk of the electorate already vote. So I think this is going to be the most accurate representation of what's going to be the final result. Because 2 out of 3 of every person they spoke to is likely to have already voted.
Well, possibly, but we won't know till the night, will we? And as I say, polls have been incorrect before. But look, if you're on the left...
Well, I remember reaching for that. Polls have been incorrect for poll as well when our side was doing badly. So it's okay, I understand.
No, but look, you'd have to be happy if you are on the left with this poll. But all I'm saying is it may not be how voting plays out on the night. I mean, there may be many people who may not want to reveal their vote to a pollster. But look, we'll know in 2 days' time. I'd just say this is not locked and loaded.
Jonathan, I'm interested in National. The trend there is downwards again, only 1%, but, it is a trend. So what do you reckon? What is the sacking percentage for a leader?
Well, look, I think Judith Collins has actually done an excellent job. She's taken over in difficult circumstances. But I think, and I'm not blaming the media for this, but look, obviously the footage of a very charismatic Labour Prime Minister surrounded by people, and some of the footage that there's been of National's campaign trail just hasn't been that flattering for National, but I don't blame Judith for that. Look, I think... What about her comments
about... What about the comments about obesity, Jonathan? Do you think she kind of went off-piste there?
No, look, as the leader, you get to say what you like, and Judith has an opinion, and many people will back her on that. So, she's had to make some calls. I think at times she's been let down by people on her team who haven't backed her up, who should at least have just stayed silent, because that's what you do. You back the leader if you want to win, and I think that's one of the problems. You've had some people in the national team who just haven't got behind Judith, and that's a shame because she's done a fantastic job.
So, Dave, New Zealand First, I think you already called it. Might you have to eat your hat with them on 3%, and sometimes they get around a 2% bump at the polls?
2% bump would be astronomical, Lisa. I don't think that's accurate. I will eat my hat if New Zealand First does get back in. Quite happily. I'll even do it on air on RNZ on Saturday night.
So standing by that prediction then, solidly standing by no New Zealand First after
correct.
Saturday.
Yeah, they're gone.
Well, I'm very surprised that they've got to 3. To be honest, I would have thought they might have been at 2. But I agree with David. Look,
but that's all within margin of error stuff, isn't it?
Hang on, David. I agree with David. I mean, it is surprising that they've got to 3. And look, I'd be surprised if they're there on Saturday night. But look at Winston Peters' history. He's constantly surprised over time. So all I'm saying is there could be a few twists in the tail in this election yet.
Jonathan, as Dave was saying, it's about 1.5 million people who have gone to the polls early. So how much do these last 2 days really matter?
Well, that's an interesting thing, and I think it won't be till we've had a few elections run under these conditions that we'll really know. But it's certainly changed the dynamic in terms of, the timing of policy releases, in terms of activity. It's all shifting much earlier. So the thing is, though, there'll still be people out there who will vote on Saturday, and there will be some that haven't made up their mind. So in this race, you've got to keep on going hard out right to the end.
Dave, on this poll, Labor need the Greens, but do you think that Jacinda Ardern will invite the Greens in even if she doesn't need them after Saturday?
No, I think they might get a few. If Labor has a majority, I think they'll still get a confidence and supply agreement with the Greens, and there might be some ministers outside of cabinet. But that would be it. I don't think she would invite them into any kind of formal coalition. There's no point in taking that risk. So I think that for the Greens to get around the cabinet table, Labor has to be at that 46 mark, 47.
OK, the thing that this poll doesn't show us, Jonathan, is if the Māori Party manages to get a seat, which obviously changes things slightly. What are your reckons on that?
Well, look, I think the Māori Party's got quite confused messaging, and, they're going for quite a radical pitch this election. I mean, personally, I'd be surprised if they managed to pick up a seat. I guess it's possible, but, you've got John Tamahiri from the right trying to sell essentially quite a radical message, and I'm just not sure if that's gelling out in the Māori electorates. Where Labor has worked very hard, they've got a strong Māori caucus and they've put a lot of effort into those seats, and people like Pini Henare, who's well respected, he's going to be pretty hard to knock over. And it does come back, whether you're in a Māori or a general seat, in the end, the whole theme of COVID is going to play heavily in the outcome of this election, and will be a factor that I think for many Māori will override the machinations of Māori electorate politics.
Dave, Māori Party, do you see them there after the election?
I mean, I think, obviously, I view this through a Pākehā lens, so I'm not that flash on Māori politics, but from what I understand, Tamati's probably the one who's most at risk. And I think that there is a chance he could get toppled. Māori electorates are notoriously difficult to poll, as we saw last time when Tuaroa did lose to Tamati. So I think they are a chance of a seat. I don't think it would change the dynamics of the government, though. I mean, at the moment, National is just locked out of any path to power. And as Jonathan said, the Māori Party does seem to have been more leftist this cycle, and so they're more likely to support a Labour-led government than any alternative anyway.
Thank you to you both. That was former National MP Jonathan Coleman and the former Green Party Policy Director turned consultant Dave Cormack.